All right, this is day 2. What do we got today, Max?
First of all, I just want to say the person I gave this credit to, she's a YouTuber on TikTok. I mean, a YouTuber, and her username is Possessed by Horror.
Cool.
So that's who I was inspired.
Is that a
by.
big YouTuber?
I wouldn't say she's like big. Like, she doesn't have millions of followers.
That's pretty
So
big.
She, I think she doesn't.
Oh,
She doesn't have millions of followers.
but she's
So-
good.
But I really like her. So
Future millions of followers.
let's hope. Anyway,
All right, we're on
the seventh movie.
the 7th movie. All right, let's
Saw
get started.
3D. So the first chapter of the movie is Public Execution. Is basically where 3 victims are in this like public square type thing, like, and there's a contraption in the middle of the room with these saws on each side and a saw on the top of the contraption, and basically 2 of the victims are strapped on each side, and there's a victim on this like plate thing on the ceiling and that she's strapped to, and basically they have to decide who to kill, and they push it towards whichever, and they were put there because the 2 guys are best friends, and they were both dating the same girl and they didn't know it, and she would basically convince them to commit crimes for her so she could get like gifts and stuff. So greed is basically, and then she died, they survived.
They both survived?
Yeah, because they chose to kill her.
I really like that one. I'm going to say that one is a 1.
Mia, you said?
1 out of 5.
I know that's one of Mia's favorite kills.
1.
So I'll do 2. Down here. There we go. Okay, so this one is a dream that Jill had. So technically it's rigged and it's not really a trap, but I included it anyways. But basically Jill finds herself chained to these like rails above, like a few feet above the floor, and at the end of it, Hoffman has this giant contraption that's got this giant blade in the front facing towards her, and he basically pushes it and it starts speeding towards her and rips her apart. And so basically she was having this dream because she had put Hoffman in the reverse bear trap, but he escaped. So she was like scared that he was gonna find her and get revenge on her, which eventually he did with the reverse bear trap.
Saying he used the same trap on her?
Yeah.
2.
2.
Dos. Dos mil.
Yeah.
2. 2.
Okay. So next one. Do you know who this is?
Yes. That is the lead singer of Linkin Park,
Anyways.
Chester Bennington.
So this is called the horsepower trap. I really like this one. Basically, they all die. But basically, he finds himself shirtless in a car, and his back is glued to the seat, and the front windshield is completely off. And basically, all the other victims, one of them, she's under the car, and her head is below the tire. Another one, he is on the garage where the car is facing, and another one is arms and I think his jaw too. Yeah, his jaw. They're pierced with these rings that are connected to chains, and those chains are connected to the car. So when the car moves, his jaw and his arms will be ripped off. And basically, there is this lever in the front of the car that he has to reach through the windshield, which is off, and pull it. And so if he pulls it, the trap doesn't go off, but as he's pulling it, his back gets ripped off because his back is glued. So, and then they were put there because there are a whole bunch of skinheads who would hate crime a whole bunch of people. So,
3.
3. Yeah.
2.
Lucia?
3.
Okay. Next is the lawnmower trap. Some people think that this trap is fake. Like, some people think she lied about it. But, anyways, basically, these 2 victims are put into this room, and they're hanging from, they have to hold on to this, like, barbed wire, so it's basically cutting their hands. And there's a whole bunch of lawnmowers that are faced downwards, so the blades are faced upwards, that are below them. And basically, one of them has to get the other to fall down in order to survive. And that person will fall into the blades and be cut up, obviously. The reason people think it's fake is because they're like, so she survived, and they're like, how did she get down from her trap? How did she get out? That's why people are thinking she faked it. But I'm also like, let's think about the gallows. There's that whole thing. Anyways, but they were put there because he was basically abusing her throughout their whole relationship. 2,
4.
4,
3.
3. So 3. Okay. The suspended cage. The victim is the guy who faked being that saw a jigsaw
Yeah.
victim. Yeah. And he wrote a whole book on it, got fame. Anyways, so that's why he was there, because he published a book about surviving and he gained a whole bunch of money and fame from it. But basically, it's this cylindrical cage that is suspended from the ceiling, and below that there's a whole bunch of spikes. So if he were to fall, he would get stabbed by the spikes. And above the cage is this little handle, and he basically has to pull that. The bottom of the cage falls off, and then he has to swing his way off so he can get on the actual floor instead of the spikes. But here's the thing: the spikes are so widely spread apart that people are like, you can easily survive that. You just fall.
Yeah.
Anyways,
3.
3.
Yeah. 3.
3.
Okay. This one, is the silent circle. Basically, Nina was put there because she was Bobby's publicist who helped him publish his books about him surviving, and she knew that was a lie, and so. But basically, the victim is put into this straitjacket and put into a chair in the middle of this circular metal contraption thing that has all these basically spikes pointing at her, and they slowly move towards her and they'll eventually penetrate her throat. But in order for her to survive, she has the key to the trap in her stomach, and that is on a fish hook that's on a wire that goes from her stomach down her throat, basically. So he has to pull that up without it puncturing some sort of organ or her throat, or before these go off too. So yeah.
4.
4.
Okay, the impalement wheel. Basically the victim is strapped to this like plate thing in the middle of this metal wheel in a horizontal position, and she slowly moves upwards, and once she's in a vertical position she will be stabbed by these spikes in her eyes and her mouth. But basically what Bobby has to do is, as the game, like as the wheel is like moving towards her face, he has to pick up these heavy bars that are attached to weights, and he has to lift them until the time basically ends. And every time he lifts these heavy bars up, his sides get stabbed. So that was a terrible explanation, and she's there because she was his lawyer who would help him cover up the fact that he was lying about it. So
5.
2.
Right.
okay. The hangman's noose, basically the victim is trapped at the end of a long hallway with this metal blindfold on his eyes basically, and a noose around his neck. And on the other side of the hallway is Bobby, and he basically has to help guide him to the other side, but the hallway is missing its floor, and there's a whole bunch of planks that he has to walk on in order to survive. And there's a key that he has to grab in the middle of the like where the floor is missing, in order for him to get the contraption off. He ends up dying, and the reason he was put there is because that's spelled wrong. Anyway, it's because he was Bobby's best friend and would also help him cover up his lies. And he ended up dying.
2.
2.
Okay, wisdom teeth. Basically, Bobby has, and he enters a room with a metal exit door that has a combination lock on it, and the combination to the lock is on his teeth. So he has to use pliers and follow a guide which is on the TV that tells him which teeth to pull out, and he has to pull out his teeth and then find the order of the combination to open the door. So, yeah.
3.
Right.
Pulling your teeth ain't too bad, I guess.
3.
Okay. I'm missing one. What the hell? Anyways, so the cyanide box was just used for security, basically, and it's a small box in a room, and it's surrounded by this metal cage that's filled with sulfuric acid, and on top of the cage is cyanide pellets. So once the SWAT officers walk into the room, the trap is activated, and the pellets are like they fall into the acid, causing a chemical reaction and releasing a poisonous gas, killing all the SWAT officers.
2.
Okay. Next one is the Brazen Bull. Basically, it's Bobby and his wife who are there, and his wife is basically attached to this little platform thing she has this leather collar around her, and it's a chain that goes into the floor, and basically across from the trap is this little pulley system with chains that have hooks on them. Bobby basically has to go to the trap and do what he had said he did, which in his book he had said that what he had to do was take the hooks and stab his pectoral muscles and lift himself up in order to win basically the trap. So basically that's what he has to do, but he didn't do it in time, and because he failed, these walls to the contraption kind of went up and basically joined together, and then fire started happening on all sides, and it basically turned into an oven and roasted her to death.
That's awesome.
And the reason she was put there is because she married him, and she didn't even know he was lying about being a jigsaw victim.
1.
2, 1.
Are we in another one now?
Okay, now
Is this
we're
8?
on Jigsaw.
And Jigsaw's 8, right?
Yeah. So, this is the Buckethead room. Basically, 5 victims wake up in a room, and they have a bucket on their head and a collar that's attached to a chain on the other side of the room. And on the other side of the room are circular saws. And the chains are basically, once the game starts, the chains pull the victims towards the saws, and all they have to do is cut any part of their body, basically giving a blood sacrifice, in order for the buckets to unlock and come off their heads. And although this dude technically died, he didn't actually, because he became Jigsaw's apprentice because Jigsaw saved him. But basically, 4 of them went there because they all committed crimes that ended up resulting in somebody's death, and then he was put there even though he survived. He was put there because he was a doctor who mixed up John Kramer's x-rays with another man, leading him to get his cancer diagnosis later than it was supposed to be. So.
4.
4. Yeah. Alicia.
4.
Hello?
What? Oh, 2.
2. Okay, I'll do 3. Okay, chain hangers. Basically, what was I gonna say? Oh. The remaining 4 victims are pulled into a new room, and the chains are pulling them, and eventually they get pulled up and start getting strangled. And there are 3 syringes in a box because this girl has been poisoned, and the antidote is in one of those syringes, but the other one contains some sort of like solution, I don't know, and the other one contains hydrofluoric acid. And so as they're getting pulled up, basically they have to chew the syringe and stab her with it. So, and then once she's stabbed, they stop getting hanged. But what they didn't know is that there's, I forgot where it was, if it was like on her neck or something, but there's a combination or something on some part of her,
Mm-hmm.
and that basically tells her which syringe she needs to use, because there's numbers on the syringes that match but they didn't get that in time, and instead she got injected with all of the syringes and then died. But she was put there because she was basically a thief, like those people who just randomly rob people on the streets. I don't know what they're called.
Robbers.
Anyway, but she stole a purse from a woman who was just minding her business, and that woman just so happened to have asthma. Real. It's hard out here. Anyways, so that woman started chasing Carly in order to get her bag, and because she was running so much, she ended up having an asthma attack and died, and her inhaler was in the bag of the woman that Carly stole. So that's why she was in the trap.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2. Those.
Okay. Next is leg wires. Basically, there's a giant door that says exit, or maybe it says don't. I don't know what it says. I forgot. Anyways, but he walks towards it, and there's a loose plank, and his leg falls down and gets trapped in these like sharp wires, and he basically has to reach for a lever and pull that, and it will cut his leg off, and it's just used for security.
That sounds awesome.
So
3.
Three.
3 it is.
okay. So the grain silo. Basically, the 2 victims find themselves in a giant grain silo with a whole bunch of grain, and basically they become trapped in all that grain. That it's just their heads and their shoulders that are appearing, and a whole bunch of sharp objects just begin to fall and will eventually stab them. But in order for them to get out, the victim who's in the leg wires, when he pulls that lever, the door to the grain silo will open and they will get out. So they're basically relying on the other person to get out. And it was also for security or something.
4.
2. 3.
Okay. This one has like 2 different names. I found that it's called the cycle trap and the spiral trap. So I just went with
Spiral.
trap. But it's a spiral, but it's called a cycle trap because it involves a motorcycle. So, basically, he died. Anyways,
What? Why are you giving it away? Now I'm sad, depressed.
Basically it's this large funnel contraption with this blade along the thing, and that starts rotating. And the rotation is powered by a motorcycle, and the brake for the motorcycle is at the bottom of this giant funnel. And so the victim, basically, he's lowered into the trap head first, and he's got like this wire or something around his leg that's lowering him. And he basically has to grab the handbrake to deactivate the trap without bumping into the coil surrounding him. And basically he was put there because he stole John Kramer's nephew a motorcycle that he didn't fix properly because he was like a mechanic. And it had a faulty brake, and then that basically caused his nephew to get hit by a truck when trying to press the brakes. So he was basically put there because he killed his nephew.
4.
Or
2. 2.
next is the shotgun keys.
Not the shotgun keys.
See, I did properly there. Anyways, basically, the last 2 victims are found in a room, and they're both chained by the leg on opposite sides of the room with a shotgun that John Kramer personally places in the middle of the room, and I forgot what he says, but he says like you'll find the key inside or something, or some sort of like tricky wording to basically trick them or something. But basically, the key that is needed to get them out of the shackles that they have is inside the shell, which is inside the gun. And whoever fires the gun, it will shoot backwards and kill them. So basically, when the shot is fired, it destroys the keys as well, leaving the other victim also trapped there, leading to them starving to death. And she was put there because she suffocated her baby because he was crying too much, and then framed her husband, which led to her husband later killing himself because he thought he killed his own baby. And then the other guy, the guy, he caused a car accident, killing 2 of his friends, as well as the other driver that he got in a car accident with. And he ended up blaming the accident on the other driver, so he got away with killing his friends and the other driver. And he was hella drunk. Don't drink and drive. That's the
Never.
lesson. So basically, she shot the gun and she died, which ended up leading to him starving to death.
4.
4.
Woohoo! 4 live. 4 live.
Okay, the last one for Jigsaw is the laser collars. Basically, 2 victims wake up with these large metal collars on their necks, and they have laser cutters attached to them. And the victims have to choose who goes first within 60 seconds, and basically they have to each confess crimes that they've done, or like wrongdoings and stuff that they've done, or else the lasers will slice their head open.
Awesome.
And basically, I don't know if you remember this trap, but one of the collars was fake, and his weren't. But basically, he was put in the trap because he was a detective who would frame innocent people, and then he would also tamper with the evidence, making it look like they were guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So,
3.
good shot.
3.
Okay, now we're on Spiral.
Spiral.
We're almost there. We're almost done. So, this is subway tunnel trap. Yeah. Basically,
Subway
there's
tunnel trap.
this contraption that it's in a subway tunnel, obviously, and he basically has this. And what am I trying to say? Oh my god, I'm blanking. So there's a contraption that's hanging from the ceiling by chains, and it's attached to the victim's tongue by a screw thing. Well, I don't know what it is. And he's basically on a step stool that he has to stand on. So he basically either has to jump off the stool, which will lead to him ripping out his tongue, or he'll get hit by an oncoming train that comes in 2 minutes. And he was put there because he was also a detective who would frame innocent people. He basically falsely testified to imprison a whole bunch of innocent people. So he was killed. See, this is the dude who I was telling you. His name is Marv, and then you all had that whole weird conversation about The Walking Dead or something.
Merle.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. 4.
Two.
Okay. A finger trap. Basically, the victim wakes up in this like bathtub type thing, and it's got electrified wires that are slightly over the edge, which are barely in the water, that could electrocute him. And his arms are basically on this table-like thing, and his fingers are connected to this giant contraption that's got these metal things that go around his fingers. And once that contraption is turned on, the motor begins and will basically slowly pull his fingers off. So he basically has to choose to get all of his fingers ripped off or get electrified to death. And he was put there because he was a corrupt cop who shot an innocent man who he felt insulted by. Literally all the dude did was flip him off, so he shot him.
Justified.
Yep. And the dude was in his car, minding his business, flipped him off.
Died. Just like that too.
Two.
Okay. Wax trap. I'm doing so many typos. No TC. I cannot speak today. Oh my god. Anyway, basically,
What you have for type 1?
what?
What
Oh, next to each victim who failed their trap, I had an asterisk next to their name. For a lot of them, I kept forgetting.
Oh.
Like for her. Basically, Angie is strapped to this giant table with leather restraints and a cloth that's covering her face. And there is a sharp blade that's underneath her neck. And there's this large tank that is near the table that contains hot wax. And the wax basically starts coming out of the pipe, pouring onto her face, burning her face, and suffocating her. And the only way to stop the wax and prevent her from dying is to basically sever her spinal cord by impaling her neck with the sharp blade that's underneath her. And she was put there because she was the homicide captain who was covering up all the police corruption that was happening.
That's some House of Wax shit right there.
Literally.
2. Because the end result is brutal.
Okay. Next is the glass grinder.
Glass grinder.
Basically, the first victim has their hands restrained above their body, and they're hanging from the ceiling, and their back is facing towards this shredder contraption. Basically, it's got these 2 chutes in the front and 2 giant fans in the back, and in the middle are these shredders, and glass bottles are going into these shredders, getting grinded up, and the fans basically blow the shredded up the glass through the chutes and at the victim's back. And the other guy basically is given a hint with a tape that he's got, and he has to find the key and unlock the first victim from their restraints before they die. And he was put there because he was Zeke's partner, who was a cop, and he basically shot and killed a witness who was the father of the Jigsaw copycat. And he shot the witness because he was going to testify against another cop.
Three.
Yeah. Yeah, Alicia.
3, 4.
Next is the Puppeteer.
Oh, I remember that one. That was insane.
Basically,
One of the
he's
craziest ones.
shackled, and he has a harness that is on him that will lift him into the air, and his limbs are connected to IV tubes that are slowly draining his blood. And he has a pistol that is hidden underneath his arm. So basically above him is a target that his son basically has to shoot that target for him to get released. And if he doesn't do it in time, basically he has these wires that are connected to him. These wires are connected to the door of the room, and once the door is open, those wires are cut. And when those wires are cut, the victim is lifted into the air from this like harnessing that he's attached to, and he's put in this sort of position, and with the gun under his arm, it looks like he's going to shoot the people who come through the door. And it's a whole bunch of SWAT officers coming through the door, so basically they shoot him to death. And he was put there because he was the former homicide captain who would help Angie cover up her police corruption, and he was also the father of the main guy who was having to help like half these victims, so that's also why he was put there.
Oh no. Yes, that was a good one.
1.
Okay, now we're on to Saw X, so the last one.
Last one.
So the victim is just some random hospital janitor. And this is also a dream, but like I said, I'm counting dreams and hallucinations.
Okay.
So basically, the victim is found strapped to a chair with this mask thing on his eyes that have these tubes connected to it that lead to this giant vacuum. Basically, on one of the arms of the chairs is this like sort of pulley system thing that's connected to his fingers, and on the other side is a dial from 1 to 5. Basically, the victim has to break all 5 fingers. So he'll like put it at 1, it'll break 1 finger, put it at 2, it'll break the second finger, and so on until he gets to 5. And if he doesn't do that in time, the vacuums basically suck his eyes out of his eye sockets.
Awesome.
And that will, I would say it would probably kill him because your eyes are connected to a whole bunch of muscles in your... Anyways, but basically the hospital janitor was put there because he would steal belongings from unconscious patients. So, what do we say?
2.
1, 2.
Dos mil.
Okay, this is the pipe bomb trap. Basically,
Is this a real one, not a dream?
yes, this is the first real one.
Okay.
So basically, Diego has 2 pipe bombs.
How about Dora? Okay.
He's got 2 pipe bombs that are attached to his arms, that are hooked into his arms, and he's got small knives that are duct taped to his hands, as you can literally see right there. And he basically has to cut into his arms to get these bombs off before they go off and blow his arms off. And he was put there because he's a tour guide and con artist who scanned John Kramer when he thought he was getting his cancer out. So.
Tres.
3.
Four.
I feel like it'd be easy, but it would hurt like hell. Okay. Next is the wire saw trap, and the victim for this is Valentina. Basically, she's got
Valentina? I prefer Tapatio.
Facts.
Facts.
Basically, she has this wire saw that's right in front of her neck, and she has another saw that is in a box, and she basically has to grab that wire saw and saw off one of her legs. There's this little gauge tool that she has, and she has to stick it into her bone and basically transfer 3 ounces of bone marrow into this little beaker thing. And if she doesn't do that in time, the wire saw around her neck will deactivate and decapitate her.
Awesome.
And she was put there because she was a prostitute and a con artist who scammed John Kramer. So.
1.
1,
Dos.
2, okay. And I saw behind the scenes of this, they used an actual wire saw, but they had a protective pad.
What's
under
it
her
called?
leg. So basically, yeah.
Well,
And then
but what's that say? Wire
wire saw trap.
saw trap.
And so they had like a fake leg, and she basically cut that off. Anyway, I just think it's cool. Next is the brain surgery trap. Basically, Mateo's strapped to this wheelchair, and he's got this giant contraption on his head. And there's a key. The key to unlock the trap is in a box that's on the table in front of him, and that box will open once he puts enough of his own brain matter into this little glass that will dissolve it. And if he fails the contraption on his head will turn on, close, and burn him. It basically looks like an oven. So, and he was there because he was a veterinarian and a con artist who scanned John Kramer.
3.
1, 2.
Radiation trap. First of all, let's acknowledge that she survived her trap. She deserved to live.
Okay.
Just saying, that really pissed me off.
I barely remember the last Saw X.
Anyway, her death really pissed me off.
You just said she survived.
They killed her off later.
Yeah,
Oh.
she survived her trap, but she died, and Amanda flipped out because she was like, "How dare you?" It was a whole thing. Anyways,
Wait, was Saw X?
in Mexico,
Oh, this like before, in between the first one.
in between the first and the second movie.
Okay, okay. You explained that
So
last
this
time. I
is, this is
forgot.
like the first thing that she's like.
I remember
Amanda's
the
being
okay.
apprenticed to.
Yeah.
Anyways, but basically she's put in these shackles, one on her wrist and one on her ankle, and she's lifted into the air by a chain that's connected to the shackles, and there's a giant X-ray machine that's pointed at her, exposing her to radiation poisoning. And there's this giant hammer thing that's on the ceiling. She has to grab that, basically smash her hand and her foot until they break and are loose enough for the shackles to fall off, so she'll
Awesome.
fall onto the ground and stop getting exposed to radiation.
I remember that
poisoning.
trap now. Yeah.
And she was put there because she was a drug addict and a con artist who scammed John Kramer. That's kind of why Amanda was freaking out, because she really resonated with her, because she was also a drug addict. So what do you guys think?
4.
Was it 4?
You know what? I'm gonna drop mine to a 2. I remember that trap. Or you're gonna choose a 4 because they chose a 4.
I'll just do 3.
I was overruled.
Okay, next one is bloodboarding. It is a decoy trap that was originally intended for John and Amanda, and then the lady who basically took over brought the little boy into it. Basically, they're put on each side of this like seesaw type of contraption, and on each side there's a lever, and whoever pulls that lever will be lowered, and blood will be released onto their head, basically like waterboarding but blood. And the trap is basically deactivated once the next trap that I'm going to show is activated. So
4.
5.
Yeah.
5.
okay, the next one is the gas chamber that deactivates the bloodboarding. Basically, the victims are Cecilia and Parker, and they find themselves in this giant room that's full of windows and all that. And there is a hole on the wall that only one person can fit their head into in order to breathe. And there is, once that trap is activated, there's a poisonous gas that is released into the room that basically kind of starts like slightly burning them. And basically the 2 victims have to fight for the hole, and whoever loses gets burned to death by the poisonous gas, and the other one is kind of left in the room. We don't know what happened to her. And they're basically put there because they're con artists who scammed Chuck Berry. And I'm kind of hoping we see her in the next movie.
She looks familiar. 4.
3.
She looks like the nurse that was killed in Dexter. The father's nurse.
And the last one is the disembowelment trap. Basically, the victim is Henry Kessler. He was a con artist who scammed John Kramer. He has this device thing that's on him that is designed to slash his like lower abdominal area, and it's got 5 sharp blades on it, and he's basically hung up, and we don't really know how the contraption works because the movie ends with them putting it on him. But basically, it's assumed that they shred his abdominal area and he has to kind of swing off to get
Oh, they never show it?
down, but they never show it because they put it on him, and then they reveal that Hoffman's there, and then the movie ends.
Like there's going to be another one?
Yeah. Which, I mean, we got confirmed there's going to be a Saw 11.
What's going to be called? Saw 11?
I don't know.
I don't know. 5.
Yeah, I'll say a 4. Because we don't know the conclusion.
Okay. That was it.
Okay, so what happened? What do we do? What's the end result?
That was it. I just
Oh.
wanted to write them.
That was it?
Yeah.
Cool. What's the next one?
I don't know.
Well, there you go. That was fun. Say goodbye.